It's Margarita time! No, but seriously, this week I have been having a lot of fun going through this book, Margarita Time, written by Caroline, I hope I'm pronouncing this right, Pardilla. She is a Los Angeles-based cocktail writer. She's also the digital editor at Imbibe magazine. When I was coming up at Cole's French Dip all those many years ago, she had a very popular blog called Caroline on Crack, where she would cover the drinks industry. I remember her doing an article once with Brent Falco, who was the bar manager there at the time. And I've been a big supporter of hers ever since. She does incredible work. So Margarita Time, what I love about this book is that it just gives you all sorts of margaritas and margarita riffs. And what's kind of cool about it is that she's asked some of the not only like heavy hitters in the Los Angeles bar scene, but also in just the bar scene in general for their favorite margarita riffs broken down into different characters like, you know, fruity riffs or savory or whatever. But then at the bottom of the page, it also has their preferred margarita spec or like their favorite margarita, I guess. That is not a riff, but an actual margarita. I don't want to say traditional because some of them have simple syrup and agave and blah, 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 which is not a traditional margarita, as we have talked about famously on this channel for a long time. And in this video, I know it's a little weird, but I'm not actually doing any recipes out of this book because it's like, there are many great recipes in this book, and I'm sure that I will execute a lot of recipes out of this book over time. But it got me thinking about some of my favorite margaritas, and I happened upon one from a bartender named Julian Cox, who was a heavy hitter in the LA bar industry in the mid 2000s, right around the time that I started. Well, I started bartending in like mid to late 2000s, but then around like 2010, 2011, I became the executive director of a bar group called Sprout LA, which was experiencing just like exponential growth in the bar industry at that time. There was a place called Petty Cash on Beverly Boulevard where they did like a cocktail class where people who had the ambitions to become bartenders within the Sprout group would take a class with Julian, and he would teach them up, and would just train them up, and then kind of train them up in the way that they want their bartenders to be. And then they kind of had this, you know, job placement thing that they would do from there. But also, he was just opening bar after bar after bar after bar for a long time. He no longer works at Sprout Group, and he's now doing other things. I think consulting, or he was working with MGM in Vegas for a little while. But Sprout Group is still around, and consequently, they are on the street that our studio is on, just a couple of blocks down Santa Fe. So they continue to partner with bartenders and chefs and create interesting concepts here in LA. So the cocktail that we're doing from Julian Cox today is called a Cal Rey Margarita. And I kind of adapted this recipe a little bit. It's not exactly the way that Julian does it, I don't think. I put a little extra Leandro zing to it, a little je ne sais quoi Leandro style. So let's get into it. So first thing we're gonna do is our Satan's Tears spicy tincture. We're gonna do 5 dashes. We're gonna do ½ an ounce of this celery Serrano juice. So this is like 3 stalks of celery juiced with 1 whole stemmed Serrano in it as well. So we're gonna put that in as well. And then we're gonna do ½ an ounce of pineapple juice. ½ an ounce of pineapple juice into the glass. No, into the tin. 3/4 of an ounce of simple syrup. Usually I would do the lime first. I don't know what is going on with my order today, but I guess all of this is relatively inexpensive. So that's right, but you should always, you know, start with the least expensive ingredients first, so that if you mess up, you're not like, you know, dumping booze out. I guess it could be argued that the tincture is kind of expensive, but it was only 5 dashes, so volume-wise, it was less expensive. I'm gonna do 1 ounce of lime juice. And then we're gonna do 2 ounces of this 106 proof still strength tequila. Tequila Blanco. Then, I'm gonna grab a glass. We're gonna grab, I left it on the top here. I don't know why I did that. Right here. We're gonna take a ½ a lime and we're just gonna rub it on the side of our glass like so. And we're gonna roll it in that flaky salt. And I like to take like a little rag here and just like clean up the edges so that it's like really straight and not messy looking. So it just looks like that. Making so much messes today, Marius, and not cleaning it up. There's two ways you can do a margarita. You can do it as a shake and dump if you want to have little bits and shards of ice in your cocktail, or you can do it the way I think I just feel like doing it today. I'm kind of split on this. Sometimes I like to do the shake and dump. Sometimes I just like it to be like strained like a gentleman into the glass. So today we're going with a nice, clean, strained, you know, no bits of ice floating around in the cocktail presentation. Give it a shake. Just give it a strain. Look at how much ice I saved from going in the cocktail. A lot of people don't realize that right there, it's about 3/4 of an ounce of extra dilution you don't need in your drink. That's why I double strain my cocktails, people. I'm gonna do a lime wheel, and even though I would normally do like a freeze-dried, I don't think we actually have any left. We sold it all. So thank you to those who bought freeze-dried lime wheels, and thank you to the rest of you for being like Marius and not saying much about my uneven cutting of lime wheels. Oh my God, it did not want to stay.
Because it's much thicker on the one side, it will just want to slip off.
Maybe. I can't, like, we need to do the thumb, but so I can't sip from the salt side, but we all know what that tastes like. Ooh, a little bit spicy. I love all of the green notes of the celery, which is a little bit bitter, and then the Serrano, which gives it like, you know, Serrano peppers are not that spicy, like they're not really spicy. I actually kicked it up a little bit to make it more spicy with this Satan's Tears tincture that I made. But did I say tincture that I made? The Satan's Tears tincture that I made. But the Serrano has this really nice green pepper flavor coupled with the celery, a little bit of pineapple for sweetness and tartness, and then you got the lime. Lime is balanced out by that simple syrup. And then of course you have the still strength Blanco tequila, bringing in some of those nice agave notes. There you have the Cal Rey Margarita. Cheers. I feel like this last cocktail is really gonna piss a lot of people off. We're going to talk a lot about just like misconceptions. And then also, you know, there's like a split when it comes to like even in the industry and then in like people that have this drink and what it means. There's a split on what it means. What we are gonna be doing is just like a rethought out version of a Cadillac Margarita. Now, the split is this. Is a Cadillac Margarita just a margarita made with the most expensive ingredients that you can possibly find in your bar so that you can charge people $55 for a margarita and then people in the nightclub can show out for their friends, since bottle service is kind of an 80s and 90s and maybe early 2000s thing? Or is it a cocktail that has specific ingredients? I've heard both arguments, you know, like for instance, people say Grand Marnier must be in a Cadillac Margarita. Well, it's a cognac-based orange liqueur, right? Orange liqueur is usually in margaritas, but is Grand Marnier the most expensive? Is it for that reason that it's Grand Marnier? Is it that it's cognac-based, and because it's cognac-based, people in the nightclub have this perception that cognac means like high society or like something that's very refined? I don't know. But we are going to use it in this cocktail, I'll tell you that. I think that what a Cadillac Margarita is a margarita that uses a little bit consequently more expensive ingredients that may be a little bit more flavorful, that makes just a better margarita. And so that's what we're gonna be trying to do today. Now, I have seen a lot of hatred for people who use expensive bottles in cocktails. A while ago, well, it was many years ago at this point, I used a bottle of Springbank 18, which is a very expensive bottle now. At the time that I used it, it was a little less expensive. It was probably about 150, 200 bucks a bottle. Now it's quite a bit more in a highball. And I've also seen some bartenders get a lot of shit from people on the internet because they're using very nuanced scotches or expensive bottles in cocktails. And what that tells me is that the idea behind putting something in a cocktail is that it is a waste of the spirit because you are, you know, I guess muddying the nuances of the spirit inside a cocktail. But what I would argue is that when you use expensive bottles, if it's something that has a very specific flavor profile that you're after, and you're marrying that flavor profile with other things in the cocktail for a reason, then it is an absolutely 100% viable way of making a cocktail. And I would also argue that making cocktails is not some low low-class thing that you do with throwaway spirits to mask their terribleness. Now, that might have been true during Prohibition when people were drinking bathtub gin that had like straight-up turpentine in it. But these days, cocktails are a very refined thing. So today, we are going to be making Leandro's Cadillac Margarita, just a more refined margarita, and we are going to be using an expensive bottle to do it. I was recently gifted a bottle of the Garnish Extra Añejo. I thought, you know what? I think that's gonna go really well in a margarita. Here's the thing, usually in cocktail culture, when the masses of people, let me rephrase this so that it makes sense. When the masses of people have an idea about what is proper in cocktail culture, they're usually wrong. So stop listening to them and listen to people like me, or Steve the bartender, or Anders Ericsson, or Lucas Assis, or Chris Leavitt, people who actually know what they're talking about, instead of just like popular opinion, because popular opinion is usually off base. So we're gonna do 1 ounce of lime juice, half an ounce of Grand Marnier, wait for it, half an ounce of honey syrup, and 2 ounces of Garnish Extra Añejo. I think we're gonna have to do it. You're just gonna have to bear with me. This is a very high-end margarita. We gotta have custom-made ice. Look how perfect that is, though. This is a truly Cadillac Margarita with some extra añejo up in here. Give it a shake. You know what? Don't have any more of the other Hawthorne strainers, so we're going to use that Hawthorne strainer. Let's give it a taste. Absolutely wonderfully brilliant. What's really nice though is that Extra Añejo has this kind of barrel forward, almost anise-like flavor that comes out real nice. The honey syrup gives it a little bit more oomph. I'm not sure if any of you guys have done margaritas with honey syrup, but it is a little bit more savory and less flat than agave. Just gives it a little more body and it gives it a little more warmth. And then you've got the obviously lime forward and you get those barrel notes from the Extra Añejo. And then of course, you've got the barrel notes from the cognac-based orange liqueur. There it is, the truly Cadillac Margarita. And you're marrying that flavor profile with, like spit on myself. So stop listening to them and listen to people like me, or Steve the bartender, or Anders Ericsson, or even, well actually no, I was gonna say or even, but I think I'll leave that one out. Today's Educated Barfly video is sponsored by The Educated Barfly. I don't know if you guys know this, some of you do, some of you don't, but we've got lots of really good products in our store and we are constantly adding to those products. One of our very new additions, freeze-dried garnishes. So whereas a dehydrated garnish gives you sort of like a more tea-like caramelized scent, the freeze-dried version of that is a little bit brighter, and then all the sugars when you freeze dry it come to the surface, and so you get a very bright, fresh orange flavor. These guys have been a real big hit since we put them in the store. We get lots of orders for them. We also have a little bit of glassware. We have our now kind of iconic Nick and Nora style glass that we did in a regular and honeycomb pattern. This is a 6 ounce glass, kind of Nick and Nora style. And we have a brand new, more coupe style glass. It's 7 ounces. We also have the honeycomb pattern in this as well. So if you're a fan of the channel and you want to help us out, this is a very good way to help the channel and then also get something out of it. A lot of this is the glassware that you see in our videos, and so you'll be able to recreate the same cocktails that we make in the studio at home with the best possible recipes, the best possible instructions, and now the best possible glassware and garnishes.